Part 71. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 710. I didn't want to buy a pager, I just feel the current situation, our country can't even build a pager. Jin Ting Ting sighed. Isn't there a company called Bird doing it? The man on the other end of the phone said in a helpless voice. There are 3 things at home, start with the tightest first. How can you have everything overnight? Since you think there is a deficiency in this area, you have to do it, the whole country expects others to do it, and you don't want to have it in your life. I didn't mean to do R/U0026D, I just thought, wouldn't it be better if more companies do it? He seemed to have heard something on the other end of the phone and asked, who are you acting as a lobbyist? Don't go around me, just say something, I'll see which company fooled you. It's GFN Electronics. Lu Feng is really a very pure person, Jin Ting Ting praised. The ghosts don't go away, the ghosts don't go away, the other end of the phone sighed and said, stay away from him, this is a troublemaker. He went abroad to do things a few days ago, and some people said through the local embassy. He cheated. Ah, Jin Ting Ting was dumbfounded, and muttered, I guess not. He is not that kind of person. GFN Electronics has been investing heavily in research and development, and now the Wipita TV is very good. He still does a lot good thing. As for foreign affairs, I really don't know. It's all right. Anyone who dares to cause trouble can also do things. What does he want when he finds you? Forex indicators. He said he wanted to acquire a foreign laboratory, but lacked foreign exchange. He said he wanted to acquire communication technology. I don't know the specifics, why don't you ask him? Jin Ting Ting said. Okay, I have more than 10 minutes of free time at noon. When the time comes, I will call and hang up first. You eat on time, you know? Don't be skinny like a hemp. I know, Jin Ting Ting said helplessly. After hanging up the phone, Jin Ting Ting went out, stood at the door of Lu Feng's house, knocked on the door and shouted, are you there? Lu Feng rubbed his eyes and opened the door in a daze, asking, what's wrong? Did you just wake up? What time is it? Jin Ting Ting saw Lu Feng's sleepy eyes and said speechlessly, on the first day of the new year, you didn't go to work in the company. Go to work? It's not up to me to decide when to go to work. Come in. Lu Feng opened the door, turned his head and walked in, poured her a glass of water, put it on the coffee table and yawned, I didn't sleep well last night, what's the matter with you? My dad said he wanted to talk to you, Jin Ting Ting said. Hearing this, Lu Feng's eyes widened instantly, his whole body came to his senses, and he asked, who? My dad. I called him and told him about you again. He said that he was free to talk to you at noon. You should go to that room at noon and wait for the call, Jin Ting Ting said obediently. Lu Feng stood up. With an indescribable spirit, he slapped his pajamas and said solemnly, let's go again at noon? Do you respect your elders? Go and wait now and walk around. It's not even 10 o'clock yet, Jin Ting Ting shouted, looking at Lu Feng who was running out the door. Lu Feng didn't listen at all. He was standing at the door of the house wearing slippers. In the living room, Lu Feng was sitting on the sofa staring at the phone. Jin Ting Ting couldn't help but said, are you going to stare for 2 hours? If you miss the call, wait until he is free. Hit it? That's your dad. You can call whenever you want. If my dad is like your dad, I can call him in the middle of the night. Lu Feng stared at the phone, he understood the importance of the call. After waiting until 11:40 noon, the phone rang. Lu Feng reached out and grabbed the phone, half squatted in front of the coffee table, holding the coffee table with one hand and the phone with the other, and said, hello, it's Lu Feng from GFN Electronics. Lu Feng, I can't hear you. It's been good recently. The voice on the other end of the phone was full of politeness. Okay, it's okay, Mr. Jin, you are okay too, Lu Feng greeted. Okay, I heard Ting Ting say, your company has something to do? What do you want to do with foreign exchange? Jin Ting Ting had never seen such a side of Lu Feng before, half squatting there, her face full of smiles. She kept saying okay to the phone, the smile on her face was almost rippling. Flattery tastes great. Old Jin, it's like this, the current pager market in our country is basically monopolized by foreign capital, including switches, chips, high-end motherboard technology, integrated circuits. We want to make pagers. GFN Electronics has developed to this day. Every year, no less than 50% of the profits are put into research and development. There are already 3,700 patents in the field of home appliances. After the new Viputa TVs are launched next year, we will be able to achieve low prices, good quality, high technology, stable output, and export them both at home and abroad. In a few years, we have reached a new level. Now, we want to sprint into the field of communications and make up for the shortcomings of the motherland. We have the confidence and determination to kill foreign pagers abroad and sell them back to developed countries, so as to surpass the UK and catch up with the US. Lu Feng said decisively, just like reporting the results to the leader, reporting the R/U0026D progress, R/U0026D direction, global laboratory, high-end technical cooperation, and future direction of the R/U0026D company. It's very good, you guy, don't cause trouble, you are a good hand. The voice on the other end of the phone lightened up and seemed very happy. Guy. Hearing such an intimate address, Lu Feng smiled in an unprecedented manner. You have praised me, I am honest, and honest. It can be pulled down, I have heard a lot of things. I know what kind of person you are. If it is used to acquire foreign core assets, this is supported. This year, we have subsidies for research and development, especially a company like yours, of course, is support plus encouragement plus rewards. However, if you go out with so much foreign exchange, you have to achieve results. The voice on the other end of the phone was a bit depressed, as if he wanted to make Lu Feng make a statement. Don't worry, I'll give you a military order here for 3 years. 3 years to knock out Motorola. If I can't do it, I'll jump into the Yellow River, Lu Feng said emotionally. However, he also played a clever trick. Lu Feng expected it to be a year, but to guarantee the leadership, he must double the time several times. One is to avoid accidents, and the other is that he bargained with you. 3 years. Don't fool me. Since you have the ability, show your ability. I will ask you about foreign exchange. In 1.5 years, I hope you can achieve results. Thank you, boss, I'll do my best. Don't worry, Lu Feng said politely to the phone. Have you eaten yet? Take care of yourself, don't work too hard. Goodbye, boss. Hey, just put the phone down. Jin Ting Ting looked at Lu Feng at the moment, slammed her mouth, hung up the phone. Lu Feng sat there smiling. Tisk tisk tisk, I didn't expect you to be such a person. With a flattering look on your face, Jin Ting Ting looked at him with disgust. What did you say? It's so unpleasant. I don't call it flattering, it's the admiration and respect for a great personality from the bottom of my heart, and it comes out of nowhere, Lu Feng said with a serious face. Jin Ting Ting rolled her eyes when she heard this. She had seen many flatterers, but it was the first time she had seen someone as strong as Lu Feng. Our dad is very good at talking, Lu Feng said happily. What, my dad? Jin Ting Ting frowned. Didn't we two recognize brother and sister last night? Lu Feng said to her. I remember it really. I don't want to be your sister. Jin Ting Ting stood up and didn't want to talk to him. This person climbed up after giving a poll. She kindly helped him once. It's good, it's not good, it's actually just a name, it's mainly related to this. It's noon, I'll invite you to dinner. Lu Feng was in a good mood. He waved his hand and said, the first meal of the new year is just eat with you. I'm sorry, please don't eat. Jin Ting Ting looked at Lu Feng and said, I'll make a meal for myself, and I'll go back to work the day after tomorrow. Lu Feng wanted to persuade her, but seeing how she looked, he had no choice but to give up. At noon, I drove the car to the company. At the dinner table, Lu Feng saw the unstoppable smiles on the faces of the crowd. Zhu Lidong couldn't help but ask, "Mr. Lu, what's the fun? Let's talk about it and let us also happy." "That's right, I've never seen you like this." Wei Yandan was also curious. "Have you found someone you like?" Lu Cheng wondered. "What are you guessing?" Cough, cough, hum. Lu Feng cleared his throat and said to Lu Cheng, "It's good news to announce, the foreign exchange indicator is probably not a big problem." "So fast?" Lu Cheng was shocked and asked Lu Feng, "Who did you call? This is not something ordinary people can do. It's still a small matter." From today onwards, I also started to pat my chest and say, "There is someone above me, do you understand?" "There is someone above me," Lu Feng said after learning that line. "Who is it?" Zhu Lidong asked curiously. "Which leader?" "You don't care who, anyway, as long as we go in the right direction. There is someone above me, and I have already made a ticket to completely crush the Motorola pager business within a year and a half." Lu Feng looked around at everyone and said, "This year is the year when our communication business takes off." They didn't know who was on Lu Feng. They only knew that Lu Feng seemed to be very excited, and Lu Cheng was a little more at ease about the development of the pager. During the phone call, Lu Feng talked a lot, especially about industrial development and manufacturing upgrades. The happy promise on the other end of the phone was not all Lu Feng's swearing nonsense that could impress the other party. More than 50 million foreign exchange, by no means an ordinary number. Lu Feng promised to devote all his energy to research and development, and to achieve results within a year and a half. If it fails, the foreign exchange hole will be filled in the next 3 years. The overseas trade that GFN Electronics is about to open makes him able to say this. After all, he is about to become a foreign exchange earner. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 711. After dinner, Lu Feng convened a meeting with people from the Overseas Trade Department. At present, there are more than 30 people in the Overseas Trade Department of the group, and the team is still relatively small. Lu Feng attaches great importance to this department. This is the future international marketing department. If GFN Electronics opens branches in other countries, it will all belong to the international department, and the current person in charge is a vice president of the marketing department. The international market needs someone who understands international trade very well. The first thing Lu Feng thought of was Su Yorong, but it's a pity that someone like her will never be able to use it for himself. In the conference room, Lu Feng looked at the dozen or so people in front of him and asked, "How is your contact with those companies in Xiangjiang? Have you been smooth?" At present, there is already an export direction. Although these companies are not very cooperative, especially when I go to talk, when I meet with those bosses, they all scold you." The head of the international marketing department looked awkwardly. Lu Feng said, "It's very rude to speak. Anyway, I was scolding, and this matter was settled. Just set it up, scold it if you scold it." In the list of export goods, include VCD, radios, tape players, TV sets, home appliances, etc. Let them find the market first, and after the market is found, place an order for the factory. Lu Feng moved towards everyone said, "My request to you is that this year, I will mainly track international trade in goods. I will find out which country these goods are sold to, which company they are in, and how the local sales are. Our current export approval has been passed, but the quality standards of electronic products in the United States have improved. Our original technical indicators of VIPITA did not meet the import standards, but the new TV sets have reached European standards. Other products have different standards. Some countries can enter, and some countries can't. They told me that most of the last batch of products were sold to Africa. At present, our products are not in the international market. It is indeed Africa. In the 1990s, Africa's GDP growth rate was not bad. Some African countries are considered leaders in developing countries and have great consumption potential. The import and export restrictions are not as strict as those of developed countries. Even in the 1990s, some people called for the rise of Africa, but it's a pity short-lived. Because the product is only in Africa, so many manufacturers compete for this market, and the sales volume is limited. Fortunately, the Golden Leopard VCD is still more advanced and more competitive in the market. The main direction for the first half of this year is to connect African companies that mainly buy our products, and at the same time to find new buyers on a global scale, and to urge partners such as Golden Cube and Beechcraft Group to vigorously develop new customers, such as Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, and ASEAN. Lufeng instructed, expanding the market, especially the VCD industry, is a very good breakthrough. Mr. Liu, we don't know much about the international situation, and our staff. The person in charge of the international marketing department looked embarrassed. In the past few months, we will expand the manpower. You can go to the Talent Reserve Center to select some relevant majors for training, and you can ask the personnel department to recruit some related practitioners. Another thing is, when you go to the partner company, pay more attention. If there is a suitable one, persuade them to come to work with us. Lufeng said to the crowd, understood. Everyone quickly said that they understood that this is the consistent style of GFeng Electronics. No matter who is in the corner, as long as the person has the ability, they can dig hard, and even subordinate companies sometimes poach each other. Let's do it first, before the new year. It's best to place a batch of orders to the factory, and the first batch of goods will be shipped in the spring. Lufeng gave them a timeline, stood up and said, hurry up and get busy. What's the situation? Tell me right away. Lufeng knows that currently only the African market is open in the international market, and other regions and countries in the Greater China Circle still have thresholds. After the meeting, Lufeng went to inquire about the production status of the new Vipita. Since November, the new Vipita has been mass-produced, and the marketing department has been doing related marketing work. In order to seize the Spring Festival market, now the first batch of new products has been shipped, and 10 provinces across the country will start selling them within 10 days. Back at the office, it was already past 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and just a few minutes after sitting down, Lu Chen knocked on the door and walked in. What's the matter? Lufeng was lying on the sofa, looking a little tired, rubbing his temples with his hands and muttering, I will die of exhaustion sooner or later, and none of you guys can stand alone. The main reason is that the development is too fast, and the talents can't keep up. If you don't develop international affairs this year, you will not be busy. Lu Cheng sat down, added some water to Lufeng's water glass, and said, Rome, there are new developments on the group side. The price has come down, Lufeng asked with narrowed eyes. That's not true, but we found the person in charge of the Ruxin laboratory. Rome Group has assigned these idle assets of the overseas R/U0026D department to a department called the Overseas Assets Affairs Department. This department is relatively idle, which is equivalent to an asset management department. We have learned through some channels that they may not want to sell because their asking price is so high. Lu Cheng pondered, this Overseas Asset Affairs Department is not the idle assets of the entire group, but the assets of overseas R/U0026D companies. So, what do you want to say? Lufeng sat up straight, took a sip from the water glass. We heard that there are only a few people in this department, and there are only 3 idle assets left. The days at work are also very leisurely. Among them, the Ruxin laboratory is the most important asset. If it is sold, this department may be, if they are banned, they will also be unemployed. Lu Cheng said to Lufeng, the people in this department are all middle-aged women. If they are unemployed, they will not be able to find another job, so she does not want to sell. Is it a woman? Lufeng asked. Yes, this is a very small department. The person in charge is Yui Karai. She is 35 years old. She was in the Roma group when she first started working. She has been working for nearly 10 years, Lu Cheng explained. Maybe they don't know much, even in their society, it's normal and stable to have a job until retirement, so she doesn't want to sell or lose her job. For such a big thing, it ended up being stuck on a small supervisor, so we still need to find out, and prescribe the right medicine. This is called Boduo. Mr. Lu, it's not called Boduo, it's called Kangjingyue, Lu Cheng reminded. Empty or Bodo, she just wants to stay in this idle department. What does the senior management of the Roma group mean? Lu Feng asked. Does the above have anything to say about this price? I called one of their vice presidents, and he told me that overseas assets are not considered by them. It mainly depends on the overseas assets department, and this laboratory does not pay much attention on their side, and it is a marginal asset. It's like the Panda technology we bought before. Lu Cheng made a simple analogy. Can you get $50 million? Lu Feng came to his senses. It shouldn't be a problem, but as soon as possible. The currency has depreciated by half a point recently. Lu Cheng clasped his hands together, looking a little anxious, and said, I think this matter is best done before the new year, otherwise the currency will depreciate. I can't bear it. I heard people say that this year may be 9-1. 9 yuan is not worth 1 yuan, but the currency depreciation in 1994 was indeed severe. Now the bank interest rate is very high. Basically the annualized rate is about 10%, and even some local banks can take the annualized rate in order to absorb deposits. Give a high price of 18%. If you really can't do it, find a consulting company and check the specific information. When the foreign exchange indicators come down, I'll take a trip, Lu Feng said with a serious expression. This thing is really fast, and the night is full of dreams. The next day, the State Administration of Foreign Exchange contacted the Shenzhen municipal government and expressed support for supporting outstanding enterprises and acquiring overseas core assets, and other departments also called and praised companies such as GFN Electronics, and hoped that local publicity would be more. Take GFN Electronics as an example, actively do research and development work, and accumulate more patents in related fields. There was a meeting in the city early in the morning. At 8 o'clock in the morning, Vice Mayor Lu hurriedly called Lu Feng's office, but the secretariat picked it up, saying that President Lu had not yet arrived at the company. At 9 o'clock in the morning, just as Lu Feng arrived at the office, a clerk walked in and said, Mr. Lu, Deputy Mayor Lu said that he has an urgent matter for you. I hope you will call back. He called me, Lu Feng hummed, call me again and say I'm in a meeting. After speaking, he strode out of the door and walked out. A meeting started at 10:30 in the morning. Lu Feng returned to the office to take a sip of water, and the phone rang as soon as he sat down. I'm Lu Feng, who is it? Lu Feng answered the phone. Brother Lu, you are very busy today. I called you several times. Lu Feng heard that it was Deputy Mayor Lu and hung up the phone. Do. Deputy Mayor Lu was dumbfounded when he heard the blind tone on the phone. Looking at the phone, he was a little annoyed and scolded, but the phone still had to be called. Which one? Lu Feng answered the phone and asked. It's me. Deputy Mayor Lu, why did you hang up on me just now? Deputy Mayor Lu asked. Oh, you beat him just now? I thought it was Brother Lu who opened his mouth, Lu Feng said with a smile. Can't you hear my voice? What's wrong with calling you Brother Lu? Vice Mayor Lu felt 100 uncomfortable, but he couldn't do anything about it. Now there is a task, even if you have to look at Lu Feng's face, he must also be implemented. Don't get me wrong, I'm a businessman, and the thing I'm most afraid of is hearing people call me brother. When I hear these two words, I'm either asking for money or asking me for money. Where are you from, the sun? Take the initiative to call me. Lu Feng leaned back in his chair and teased, what? The Municipal Foreign Exchange Bureau is under your control today. On the other end of the phone, Vice Mayor Liu's angry face turned green. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 712. Feeling unhappy at home, Vice Mayor Lu couldn't figure out the details of Lu Feng for a while, and he didn't know who was above him, with such great energy. Brother Lu, what are you talking about? What kind of friendship do we have between the two of us? We really couldn't do anything about it before. I had already reported to the leader at that time. I stood at the door of the office and waited for several hours. After talking to the leader, they didn't say anything. I dare not ask, Vice Mayor Lu said aggrievedly. It's really powerless, but I want to tell you some great news. After hearing what he said, Lu Feng couldn't help laughing. If he was pretending to be confused, the deputy mayor was definitely a master. He said, is it because of your unremitting efforts that the foreign exchange indicator has finally moved? You already know, Deputy Mayor Lu said calmly, I just played a trivial role, mainly because of my wise leadership. I will not hide it from you. This time it was sent from above, Brother Lu. Do you know what's going on? I don't have any inside information. I just happened to meet my god sister, and I called my godfather to say hello and said this. Lu Feng sat there with Erlang's legs crossed and said, he is the same person. He said it all. Without his help, the result is still like this. Deputy Mayor Lu was shocked. Sure enough, it's so easy to get to where you are today. It's obviously someone from above. Brother Lu, why haven't you mentioned it before? Deputy Mayor Lu asked politely. It's nothing to mention. I don't think you, an honest person like you, will take special care of me just because you flatter the leaders, right? Lu Feng asked rhetorically. This is for sure. You can rest assured. The foreign exchange indicators will be put down in the next 2 days. When you need to use it, you don't need to send someone over. Just give me a call and I will handle it. It's faster, Deputy Mayor Lu said politely. Since you are so enthusiastic, it's not easy for me to refuse. Okay, it just so happens that I'm busy during this time, so I've worked hard for you. It's okay, it's all my own brothers, Deputy Mayor Lu said enthusiastically. Is there anything to say hello? Okay, don't worry, I've always been rude to brothers. Hang up. Lu Feng hung up the phone after he finished speaking. There are some things that ordinary people can't do in their entire lives, but for some people, it's just a matter of casual orders. There is never a difficult thing in the world, the key is to see who does it. Lu Feng breathed a sigh of relief after the foreign exchange indicator was settled. The next step was to go to Fuzhang to deal with that bitch. In Lu Feng's eyes, it was not difficult to deal with such a middle-aged woman. He thought that a week was enough. Anyone can swell, especially after a streak of victories, and it's easy to think small things are within your grasp. In the evening, Lu Feng's mother called and asked him when he would go back. I've been very busy this year, so I might not go back during the new year. Lu Feng knew that when he went back to the new year, he was naturally surrounded by a lot of relatives. Now he is single. Maybe there will be a link to introduce the object, saying, let's see it when you have time, go back when you have time, forget it if you are too busy. You two old people still have money in your hand, right? If you have money, you will have enough money to spend if you don't work in your life. You can even come back for 2 days. It's not suitable to be outside alone for the new year, Mom said on the phone. You're busy with work, you just need to take care of yourselves. I'm such a big man, don't worry, Lu Feng prevaricates. It's better to come back, there are many relatives at home, it's lively. Got it, I'll see when the time comes. I have a meeting. I'm busy first. If you run out of money, remember to call me, Lu Feng said politely and hung up the phone. Now is the time when Wipita TV is new, and it is also the first time that Zulidong has faced the market alone. A month ago, Wipita TV's advertisements were already overwhelming, and the eye protection TV was even more popular. The wall printing is all over the alley. The spokesperson of the TV is also the famous singer Jo Hwimin in Hong Kong. The advertisements are bombarded by local TV stations. Her handsome face is combined with the slogan of Wipita, Eye Protection TV, Higher End TV, New Choice for Family, TV is my choice Wipita. The market has already made preparations for the launch of Wipita. A few days ago, major manufacturers opened year-end discounts. They only need XXXX to take home a big color TV. The new product was launched, and faced with the price reduction of competitors of the same quality and the same size, Zulidong's solution was to create a rush to buy. Stores were in short supply, deliberately made people queue up, and put up banners in major stores every day. There was no demand in the market. He started to create demand, work hard from the face. I bought some local newspaper headlines and used shocking story paragraphs to express the face-saving attributes of Wipita TVs. For example, because my husband didn't buy Wipita TVs, my wife felt that I had no face in the village, so I passed on the same village to buy Wipita TVs. The old bachelor with the machine. On January 3rd, major stores started official sales. As soon as the doors opened in the morning, there was a long queue in front of the door. Coupled with the banners hanging at the door, it became the biggest signboard for a while, and people passing by came to look here. On the first day of the sale, in the price reduction promotion of a friend, Wipita sold 10,25 units. In the headquarters, everyone in the marketing department's office was carnival, like crazy. Zulidong's eyes were red with excitement. Although this single-day sales did not break the previous data, he still managed to do it under the heavy siege. He proved to the entire market that without Lu Feng at the helm, he could break out of the siege. At the same time, he also proved himself like the industry. Zulidong will always be Zulidong. In terms of the market, he can single out the entire industry. Lu Feng was standing at the door of the office. People from other departments stuck their heads out to look here, asking each other what happened. Mr. Lu. President Lu. Zulidong trotted over, his face flushed with excitement. The middle-aged man saw Lu Feng's voice a little out of control and said, 10,025. It broke 10,000 on the first day. It broke 10,000. It's gone. Standing there, Lu Feng applauded him, and said, congratulations, you have a good start, the marketing department is awesome, and there is a celebration banquet tonight. There was a lot of noise at the scene, and a few girls even cried with excitement. The whole office area of the marketing department was applauded for a long time. The single product was launched, and the number of units exceeded 10,000 on the first day. This data is unattainable for many large manufacturers. Call your colleagues and let them be stimulated. Lu Feng smiled at Zulidong and said, after all, they are colleagues. You can't see them when you look up. If you have good news, you should learn to share it. I'll share it now. Zulidong ran into his office, picked up the phone and called his friend. Hey, I'm Jiafeng Electronics Zulidong. It's nothing, it's been a long time since I haven't been in touch. Wipita is on the market today. Oh, don't mention it, it sells just like that. A market manager like me has the ability here, so it's not like you don't know. Mr. Lu doesn't care now. I am in charge of home appliances. The terminal sales data have just been compiled. Zulidong sat on the desk with half of his buttocks, his eyes pinched in his hand, and the phone in the other hand, indescribably comfortable. It just sold more than 10,000 units. Now this business is not easy to do. You seem to be doing a promotion today, right? More than 10,000 units are nothing. The main reason is that my ability is not good. With so many manufacturers crowded together to organize promotions, I only sold more than 10,000. Damn, hang up my phone, do you have the quality? Zhu Lidong wasn't annoyed, and dialed another number to go out, which was the same as just now. At dinner time, 7 tables of wine and dishes were ordered at a nearby large hotel. Lu Feng simply took a sip, took a glass of wine and had a drink with everyone, and left the rest to Zhu Lidong. Municipal, in the office. GFN Electronics has obtained so many foreign exchange indicators, and the audit must be very strict. They must make sure that Lu Feng is using the money to buy core assets, rather than speculating in foreign exchange. A municipal staff member needs to be stationed in GFN Electronics to check in and follow up. There was a knock on the door of the office, and the man behind the desk said without raising his head, "Come in." The door was pushed open, and Jin Tingting walked in timidly, clutching her hands together, looking a bit cautious. She stepped forward and said, "Leader, are you looking for me? What major did you study in college?" "Administrative Management, elective in Finance, double bachelor's degree," Jin Tingting replied. "Very good, you are among the most educated in our team. There is a recent incident, just in time for you to deal with it. A company has applied for a very large foreign exchange indicator, in order to prevent them from doing things with foreign exchange. Yes, I need to follow up and supervise it. Is this okay?" The leader raised his head and asked. "A company with a huge amount of foreign exchange just received?" Jin Tingting was stunned and asked subconsciously, "Could it be GFN Electronics?" "The news is quite well informed. It seems that you are also concerned about the enterprise. This is very good. The society is very broad, and all parties must pay attention to it. Develop yourself into an all-rounder, so that you can take over the banner and lead the times." He looked at Jin Tingting and asked, "Is it okay?" Jin Tingting wanted to refuse, but she didn't know how to refuse, so she nodded slightly embarrassed and said, "Promise to complete the task. This is a very important thing. You must be optimistic about foreign exchange and make sure that they spend their money where they are. Since last year, the exchange rate has not been stable. There are too many people speculating in foreign exchange. You have to be careful. If there is any problem, report in time and go out." "Okay." Jin Tingting went out and closed the door by the way. Standing at the door, she breathed a sigh of relief, and she was also muttering in her heart, "Does Lu Feng really want to buy a laboratory company, or does he want to speculate in foreign exchange? If he uses this money to speculate in foreign exchange, he will become a sinner through the ages. This is no small matter." Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 713. After being silent for almost a year, Wipita has once again become the focus of the industry, starting a new round of conventional warfare from market competition to legal proceedings. The next day, some industry associations came forward to accuse Wipita of false propaganda. At the same time, 6 manufacturers jointly reported that Wipita defrauded consumers, and expressed doubts about the so-called eye protection TV gimmick. Lu Feng didn't have time to deal with this. All his thoughts were in the communications industry. In January 1994, the waveguide pager was relaunched. The retail price of the Hangxian pager terminal was 3,599, and the single-day sales exceeded 5,000 units, compared to Motorola's 4,000 units. The price of a lot of clear face is already very cheap. Motorola is hard to find a machine, which leads to the price increase by scalpers. Ordinary people want to buy a Motorola Hangxian pager, and the price is close to 5,000 yuan. The 4 founders of Bird were very excited to see this kind of sales. The single-day sales exceeded 5,000, because their productivity was only 5,000 units, and through the hot sales of Wipita TVs, they were known as Wippo in the pager industry. GFN Electronics in the industry. The meaning of the external propaganda is very obvious. We have already established a firm foothold. Mr. Lu, Don't come to meddle, and build your TV with peace of mind. In the office, Lu Feng looked at the newspaper and felt a little anxious. As the leader of domestic pagers, the development of Bird was almost smooth sailing. Once the confrontation between Motorola and Bird was formed, the market would not be able to accommodate a third party. What Lu Feng has to do is to form a tripartite relationship with these two families. Once the opportunity is missed, it will really miss the historical outlet, so he must hurry up. There was a knock on the door of the office, and Lu Cheng walked in, holding a folder in his hand, and said, "Mr. Lu, the information about Yu Ikarai has been collected almost, and I have also contacted a lot of their relevant leaders reached a conclusion." "What conclusion?" Lu Feng raised his head and asked. "They seem to have forgotten about this laboratory. In the early 1980s, this was the core of their strategy, and now things are different. From this point of view, the price should not be too high." "The person in charge is fine," Lu Cheng said with a serious face. Lu Feng put the newspaper in his hand in front of Lu Cheng and asked, "Have you read it?" "I've seen it. It needs to be put into production as soon as possible, so as not to have a lot of dreams at night. Wait for the foreign exchange indicators to go through the process, and book a flight ticket for tomorrow. You will also follow me. At the same time, I need an international finance company, an accounting company, and an international acquisition law firm." Lu Feng pondered for a while. After a while, he said, "These things are handed over to." Lu Feng originally wanted to hand it over to Su Yorong, but the thought of being so close to her made Mr. Feng suspicious. He paused and said, "I'll do it." "Then I'll book a flight," Lu Cheng agreed and asked, "Is there anything else?" "No, you are busy with your work." After Lu Feng ordered. He picked up the phone on the table, called the finance first, and asked if the money from United Capital had arrived. The person in charge of finance told Lu Feng that the money was already in the process and it was expected to arrive this week. Lu Feng asked them to sort out the equity mortgage contract and the funds that had been received. After hanging up the phone, he called Mr. Feng again. It was Jenkin who answered the phone. After a few chats, he called Mr. Feng. "Hello Mr. Feng, how are you doing?" Lu Feng asked politely. "You don't go to the Three Treasures Hall for everything, so don't tell me about such a big thing in advance." Mr. Feng knew in his heart that it was easy to find a few firms and financial companies urgently. For such a small acquisition case, he made a phone call. It can be solved in half a day. The problem is that he found these companies. When people ask for money, they must ask Sun Hung Kai. Of course, Sun Hung Kai has money, but will Lu Feng really settle the bill for Sun Hung Kai? Who is Lu Feng? Mr. Feng knows too well. "You are so talented with your hands and eyes, this is not a word," Lu Feng said politely. "I'm in a hurry. There is a manufacturer's product on the mainland that has already been launched. Look at this." "Lu Feng, this is your problem. Cross-border acquisitions are all prepared 1 year in advance. Financial guarantee companies, consulting companies, law firms, and accounting firms are a series of jobs. It doesn't mean that regardless of you, even if it was me, I would call and ask, and it would be the same for you to ask." Mr. Feng declined and said, "Well, I can introduce you to you, and you can talk." "No. I mean, let Sun Hung Kai package the service, and leave all these things to you," Lu Feng said, suddenly pondering the taste, and asked, "Are you afraid that I won't give you the money?" "Ha ha ha, no, how could it be?" Mr. Feng was pierced and laughed. "The relationship between the two of us, this amount of money is really boring, not to mention that you are still my investor. If you think I am unreliable, I can first put 100 million yuan on you as a guarantee. Of course, you are sure it's unacceptable, the relationship between the two of us. If we do this, what's the point?" "Right," Lu Feng said a little excitedly. Zhen Kun, who was standing on the side, laughed when he heard this, and Mr. Feng was also speechless. This business must not be done. In business, One code is one code. Don't talk about feelings. Why don't you find someone else? Sun Hung Kai really has no ability in this regard, Mr. Feng declined. Don't tell me, I'm really in a hurry. It's the relationship between the two of us. How about you, leave this matter to Xiao and train him? How about I contact him, Lu Feng, do not give up. Mr. Feng is very speechless. Feng Xiao is in charge of this matter? I'm afraid that when things are done, you won't want to get the money back in your life. He's very busy. I'll call him, as long as I speak, no matter how busy he is, he will have to give me face. You don't know our relationship, it's iron. Lu Feng looked stunned, as if he couldn't tell that people didn't want to care similar. Mr. Feng was also in a hurry, and said solemnly, don't call him, I sent him to Antarctica. If you can't get in touch, you should hurry up and contact others. Going to Antarctica? Mr. Feng was forced to start talking nonsense. Lu Feng seemed to understand, and said with a bit of disappointment in his tone, okay, then I won't bother you. Before Mr. Feng hung up the phone, he wanted to be polite and let him be a guest at home when he had time, but he swallowed the words. He was afraid that after he finished speaking, the other party would come the next day. After hanging up, Lu Feng called Su Yorong directly. In the office, Su Yorong was receiving the two bosses when the phone rang, smiled apologetically and said, excuse me, take a call. He stood up and walked to the desk, picked up the phone and said, who is it? It's me, help me with something. Recently we are going to acquire a foreign laboratory and help me find a series of service companies such as accounting firms, law firms, financial guarantee companies, etc. It is not a large-scale merger. $40 to $50 million, Lu Feng said straight to the point. When Su Yorong heard that he had something to do, she went to herself, feeling a little uncomfortable, and wanted to ask him why he didn't think about him on weekdays, but now that there were guests in the office, he had to put away that side and asked, if it's only a few thousand small mergers and acquisitions worth $10,000 are indeed easy to find, and as for the guarantee company, we can do it? Then you do it, get it as soon as possible, and you sign an entrustment contract with us, and I will entrust you with full authority. How is the service fee calculated? Su Yorong asked. What kind of money is it with me? Write the market price on the surface, and you will pay all the expenses in advance, and then you can drag it on. I will give you a big red envelope of 1 million during the new year, no problem, Lu Feng asked. Su Yorong glanced at the other side quietly and whispered, in addition, accompany me to celebrate the new year. To accompany you for the new year, to accompany you to eat and drink, to accompany you in your dreams. The 1 million won't be given, okay, Lu Feng bargained. No, you are such a big boss, why is this? Su Yorong was afraid that his voice was too loud, so he looked back and said in a low voice, you are about to sell it. If I could make money by selling it, I'd go to sea early. That's it? I'm busy. I'll get it done in 2 days. You can contact Wei Yandan and hang up. Lu Feng was not polite to her, and hung up the phone after he finished speaking. At the group headquarters, a Volkswagen car was parked at the door opened, and Deputy Mayor Lu walked down, followed by 2 more people, one of whom was Jin Ting. Let's go up, Deputy Mayor Lu ordered in a low voice as he walked. You keep some snacks, this Lu Feng has a lot of heart, and he will report anything in time. I know, Jin Ting nodded obediently. On the 5th floor, Deputy Mayor Lu asked a clerk, where is your chairman's office? Over there, she pointed. A woman in her 30s rushed over and said apologetically, Vice Mayor Lu, I'm sorry, I'm Xiao Zhao from the administration. I made an appointment on the phone with you. I felt sick and just went to the bathroom. I didn't come downstairs to meet you. It's all right, I can't get into your chairman's phone number. I'm not unhappy at all. Let's go, let's get things done first. Deputy Mayor Lu said that it didn't matter, but his face was full of disapproval. Happy. After knocking on the door of Lu Feng's office, Deputy Mayor Lu walked in first, shook hands with Lu Feng and said, "Oh, Brother Lu, you are so busy on the phone that you can't get in at all, so I had to visit the door. Let me tell you the good news, all the approval procedures for foreign exchange indicators have been passed, and at the same time, I have brought you one person, this one." Lu Feng looked at Jin Tingting at the door, dumbfounded. Seeing Lu Feng staring straight at him, Deputy Mayor Lu coughed, "Mr. Lu, don't be swayed, let me tell you, they are serious college students and pillars of the country." Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 714. "Okay, don't worry," Lu Feng glanced at Jin Tingting and asked, "What is she doing?" "Supervising." "Yes, don't feel uncomfortable. The exchange rate has fluctuated a lot recently, and there are so many people speculating in foreign exchange. Such a big indicator must be supervised. I believe that President Lu will definitely spend foreign exchange on the edge." Vice Mayor Lu said towards Lu Feng. "No problem, I still think about it, there is no personal supervision, lest someone say that I signed a fake contract with a foreign capital and took the opportunity to transfer property. Now I can rest assured," Lu Feng said with a smile. "Sit down, Mr. Beauty, what's your surname?" "Hurry up and sit down, I'll ask someone to pour you some tea." Jin Tingting rolled her eyes furiously deep in her heart, the look of him pretending not to know is the real one. "Free your surname Jin. Gold is bound to be expensive. They are all named Jin. Is there anything more valuable than gold?" Lu Feng politely took out a cigarette from the drawer and lit one for Deputy Mayor Lu. After sitting down, a clerk walked in. "Pour water." Lu Feng was a little suspicious before, such a big foreign exchange index, it is impossible for the state to approve it and let it go. What's more, at this point, the exchange rate fluctuates greatly, foreign exchange speculation is common, and there are countless speculators. It is not only necessary to track and supervise the removal of foreign exchange, but also to make a value assessment of the purchased foreign assets, so that Lu Feng will take 400 million yuan and exchange it for more than 50 million US dollars, and go abroad to buy a dozen worth of assets. The empty shell of $10,000, put the rest of the money in his pocket and go to do other things. Or it is converted into US dollars, and then the renminbi continues to depreciate. When 8 yuan is more than $1, it is converted into renminbi, which invisibly resists inflation, and when the exchange rate fluctuates again, it is converted into US dollars. Back and forth so many times, the funds may double. The foreign exchange reserves of the state are used to purchase core assets or production equipment for enterprises, mainly to improve industrial technology and promote the development of the domestic economy, rather than these buying and selling speculators taking advantage of the country. Throughout the 1990s, the exchange rate fluctuated greatly, and foreign exchange speculation was once the best way for many people to get rich. Therefore, the strict control of foreign exchange indicators has also led many people abroad to believe that the country's currency is particularly fragile, and it was only later that the renminbi was blocked. If a country's currency is only considered from the perspective of its domestic economy, it is definitely a mistake. Behind any country's currency, the most favorable support is always military strength. Who dares to let the value of my currency plummet when you have the military power that dominates the world? Lu Feng chatted with Deputy Mayor Lu for half an hour, and Deputy Mayor Lu spoke a lot more politely. Brother Lu, who opened his mouth and shut his mouth, called it kind. After seeing Deputy Mayor Lu away and returning to the office, Jin Tingting looked at him with a bit of remorse. She didn't expect foreign exchange indicators to be so valuable now. At that time, my thoughts were relatively simple, and I just wanted to help Lu Feng and pull this ambitious company. You're a foreign exchange indicator, don't you really want to do anything else? Jin Tingting looked at Lu Feng suspiciously and said, I advise you, Don't make small calculations. If you don't acquire a valuable foreign company, I will definitely report it. You. Hey, auntie, don't scare me. Just now Deputy Mayor Lu frightened me for a long time, and you frightened me again. Lu Feng sat down and sighed. I really need it. If you don't believe it, tomorrow come with me. Where are you going? Jin Tingting asked curiously. Go to Kyoto City and talk to Roma Semiconductor Group. Lu Feng suddenly thought that he had to book a plane ticket for her and asked, do you have a passport? Yes, I have. Go get it and ask them to buy you a ticket for tomorrow, Lu Feng said hurriedly. The visa hasn't been issued yet, Jin Tingting said anxiously. It's easy to talk if you have money. Lu Feng picked up the phone on the desk and called the office of the person in charge of administration. Get me a car and send someone to do some errands later. The good start of the waveguide pager has attracted the attention of Motorola branch, and Jiro Nakata reported the situation in time. For Fuzhou, the economy has been crushed since the 1980s, but exports and real estate have suffered disasters. In core technology, especially in the field of communications, it is a global leader. Even its American father has to look up to it. In the semiconductor industry, Motorola, Toshiba, Sharp, Sony, Hitachi, Panasonic, Roma Group, etc., are countless. In 1991, mobile phones entered thousands of households in Fuzhou. The global communication standards of the 1G and 2G eras were all formulated by them. When the 3G era was reached, the United States caught up and began to dominate the world. After the 4G era, we caught up. Come up, 5G has achieved transcendence. With such a strong semiconductor industry, they don't look down on the weak industry in the mainland area at all. The global strategy of the group headquarters does not look down on this, but it has entered the eyes of a vice president of a secondary department. In the Overseas Market Strategy Department, the president's office, several folders were placed in front of a man in his 50s. He was slightly bald on the top of his head, and he was not tall. Looking at the folder in front of him, things in the mainland were originally trivial matters to him. He was mainly responsible for other major countries and regions in Asia. After all, those places had higher sales. But when he saw the 4 words GFN Electronics, his hand stopped. He read it carefully, picked up the phone on the table, called in a middle-aged man, and asked, this GFN Electronics is the one from before? Home, a business party in Dubai, someone who swindles in the name of Mr. Buffett. I'll go check it out. The man took the information with both hands, turned his head and walked out the door. According to a series of conditions such as the company name, the location of the headquarters, and the name of the chairman, it was not difficult to check. After 10 minutes, the man knocked on the door and walked in. It's really him, the man replied. Yoshida Dong-I stared at the photo of Lu Feng above, his face darkened, and he signaled that he could go out, picked up the phone on the table, and called Hathaway on Wall Street. Hello, I'm the president of Motorola's Overseas Strategy Department. My name is Yoshida Toiki. Can you connect Mr. Buffett's phone for me? Yoshida Toiki's voice was indescribably humble, and he kept talking. Bowed and nodded. I can only transfer you to the secretary's office. Do you need it? The voice of the customer service on the other end of the phone was a little impatient, and the sound of typing on the keyboard could be heard in the microphone. Thanks. After the call was transferred, Toiki Yoshida said in a very sincere voice, Hello, I'm Motorola's Overseas Strategy Department. The point, what's the matter? The woman's voice on the other end of the phone was even more impatient than before. It's like this, Lu Feng, who used Mr. Buffett's name to swindle in Dubai before, is now in conflict with our business in the mainland area. This person so disrespects Mr. Buffett. If Mr. Buffett thinks it is necessary to let him improve his memory, I think I can teach him a lesson. Please pass it on, Toiki Yoshida said sincerely. When the other end of the phone heard this, her heart swelled up. She was the one who answered the call before, because she was deducted from her salary because of this matter. After finally coming over, he ran over to mention it again. How not to be annoying. What's more, he speaks English like a donkey dung egg in his mouth, and he can't understand the murmur. No need, thank you for your kindness, she replied politely. I feel very necessary to uphold the dignity of Mr. Buffett. Before he finished speaking, he hung up the phone directly. Yoshida Dung I didn't feel uncomfortable, but thought that he should do it. As long as he did it well, Mr. Buffett would definitely reward himself, and maybe there would be a chance to see him. If he got into the top of Wall Street, his status would be unusual. If he broke down a small company in the mainland, he would have a chance to get such a high return. Toiki Yoshida felt that his opportunity had come. The world is so absurd sometimes. The poor will think for the rich, and the people at the bottom will maintain their dignity for the people at the top. There are even some things that the rich and gentlemen of the upper class are not angry, but the poor ghosts below are anxious. Sometimes I think about it, dogs are good friends of human beings, while dogs are the public enemies of all human beings. The information of GFN Electronics was put aside. Yoshida Dung I decided to study this company carefully. Since Lu Feng was going to enter the communication industry, he could not avoid these companies. On this trip, I have to sort out all the information of Ruxin Laboratory, and list the relevant technical patent value in detail. At the same time, I did a little analysis on Kurayui, and made an appointment with her 3 days ago. To express the sincerity of GFN Electronics. The next morning, after breakfast, a group of more than a dozen people got into the car and rushed to the airport. In the car, Lu Feng looked at the relevant information. For this trip, the price he could accept was $50 million. Of course, he could. Lowering the price is best, but Lu Feng feels that it is unlikely to continue to lower the price. The main reason is that this laboratory's technology patents contain part of the chip technology. After these chip technologies are obtained, the chips of the Wipita TV can basically be produced independently. Jin Tingting, who was sitting on the side, saw that he stayed on the page of the core processor for a long time and asked, "Aren't you for communication technology? Why did you stare at the processor for so long?" Currently, the annual sales of TV sets in mainland China are as high as 10 million sets, but do you know how many of the processors inside are autonomous? Less than 1/10. GFN Electronics currently produces only one processor, which is used to compile and process signals. Utensils, everything else is from UMC on the other side. Especially the new Wipita TV has more functions and needs to process more data. However, it is such a simple integrated processor that we all need to buy, or even technical authorization. Lu Feng sighed and said, "I hope this trip is the starting point for change." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 715. Lu Feng still didn't say anything. The current UMC, TSMC and other manufacturers are complete foundries. Whether it is machinery or technology patents, they are completely foreign funded. The later Mediatek appeared, and took the same path. But many years later, most of the technology in chip technology has been mastered. GFN Electronics wants to become a global first-line array in the chip field in the short term. Same. Lu Feng didn't feel that he had lost anything. Even if he wasn't reborn, he was still a rich man. He sang and danced. What he can do now is to lay a foundation for the domestic integrated processor market, and then burn a lot of money to see if he can burn a spark of hope. Seeing his serious face, Jin Tingting whispered, "Don't worry, this trip will have a good result." Lu Cheng, who was sitting in the co-pilot, suddenly turned his head and asked, "Mr. Lu, what are we doing this time?" Let's go to see the senior management of the Roma group first, or to fool that Karayui. I think we'll still see Karayui. Clothes, that woman is a little trickier. Lu Feng nodded and said, I also think that I should go to see her first. Even if she lowers the price, she will still have to negotiate later, but if she lowers the price, it will be easier for us to talk later. Besides, women are easier to cheat. A little. Lu Cheng nodded in agreement. Jin Tingting was dumbfounded. This is what the executives and chairman of a group company said. Are you sure it's not a scam group? Aren't we going to talk? Jin Tingting described the business elite negotiation scene in her mind. It shouldn't be. The two sides are in suits and leather shoes, sit next to an interpreter, negotiate in a friendly and harmonious atmosphere, and then stand up and shake hands, to reach a cooperation. Lu Cheng couldn't help laughing when she heard this. The scenes she was talking about were all shown to outsiders. If it was so easy to talk about, why should these people do? The kind of situation you're talking about is seen by outsiders. Our main strategy is, we can't tell lies and focus on our hearts and minds. Lu Feng seemed to have found a suitable word for himself, and said solemnly, business battles are ultimately heart battles. Jin Tingting had a bad premonition in her heart. She always felt that this trip would be an eye-opener. The car stopped at the airport, and a group of people waited in the VIP room for more than 10 minutes before getting on the plane under the guidance of the flight attendant. As the plane took off, 3 hours later, Lu Feng set foot on this land for the first time in his life. Kyoto City, next to Osaka, has a developed economy and is now called the Silicon Valley of Fuzhang. Many semiconductor companies have set up headquarters or important branches here. It is also one of the metropolitan areas where housing prices fell the most in the 1990s. 1. The weather was a few degrees warmer than Shenzhen, but the overall situation was similar. When Lu Feng walked out of the VIP passage, he saw a banner hanging outside, as if he was welcoming an important person to visit. Translation: what is written on it? Lu Feng pointed to the banner and asked. The translation girl stepped forward in 2 steps and said, we welcome a comic writer here. Don't you welcome Mr. So-and-so to Japan? Lu Feng asked with a bit of wickedness. It's from our own country. The little girl seemed to see what Lu Feng was thinking, with a shy smile on her face. What's wrong? Jin Tingting asked after 2 steps. It's okay, let's go to the hotel first, Lu Feng said and walked forward. I have to mention that Fuzhang is really good in terms of service. When receiving services, he always bows his head slightly and bows his waist, showing a humble look. Sometimes he is even willing to show the back of his head, but unfortunately it has a backbone on it. The whole process of checking in at the hotel was all a few little girls smiling. Now is the beginning of the housing price bubble. A large number of people are unemployed and laid off. These ordinary reception jobs are extremely cherished for these people. Also, because of the economic suppression, many women have no source of income, and now the dust area is particularly hot, and it has also created a huge pink economy. As soon as he settled in the hotel, Liukin began to contact Karayui, and made an appointment to go to the company to meet and have a meal at noon. After everything was arranged, Lu Cheng knocked on Lu Feng's door. In the room, in addition to the 7 or 8 staff members, there were only 4 people on this trip: Lu Feng, Jin Tingting, Lu Cheng, and the translator. For technical related issues, Lu Cheng was mainly in charge, Jin Tingting was in charge of supervision, and Lu Feng was the person in charge to negotiate. It's already arranged. Their company branch is less than 10 minutes drive away. Lu Cheng glanced at the time and said, it's less than 10 o'clock now. It's too late. Let me briefly say that although we are here to discuss acquisitions, and we are asking for an acquisition from others, we can't be too impatient, or the other party will ask for a lot of money, and at the same time, we must raise my identity. Lu Feng said to the 3 of them, I am in China. They can collect some information, but the consulting company can't collect all the information. especially the relationship with the municipal government, family background, like the first person of the new generation in the mainland business world, the president of a large chamber of commerce, and some official positions. You must understand the control of domestic resources. Can't say blow it, at least bring the shelf to me, you know. Lu Feng instructed the crowd. Jin Tingting sat there with her eyes dizzy, and there was only one sentence left in her heart: this is a fraud gang. When the translation girl came today, she was very excited. After all, she was a young and promising chairman of GFN Electronics who was doing the translation. According to her idea, Lu Feng should be the type of overbearing president. However, at this moment, the image of the domineering president's broken face is not left with dregs. I know, it doesn't matter when we talk to help you, they won't understand anyway. Lu Cheng instructed the translation girl with an old actor appearance. It's mainly you. The translation girl nodded stiffly and said, don't worry. Pack up, let's go. Is the car rental ready? Lu Feng stood up from the sofa and asked. It's all arranged a week ago, it's foolproof, Lu Cheng replied. Standing in front of the mirror, Lu Feng straightened his hair, then pinched the collar of his woolen coat and lifted it up. 2 black sedans were already waiting downstairs, and Lu Feng got in the car and walked away. The business center of Shangjing District, where the branch of Rome Semiconductor Group is located, the 2 office buildings are next to each other, the main building on the left, and some less important departments on the right. Because of the advance notice, a banner was hung in front of the building, which read in Chinese, a warm welcome to Mr. Lu Feng, the chairman of GFN Electronics. There were already more than a dozen people waiting at the gate, including one in his 30s. Woman. Not tall, about 1.6 meters tall, wearing a pair of glasses, oval face, short hair down to the neck, not the heroic spirit of the female elite in the workplace, but rather squeamish. Lu Feng got out of the car, and the people inside greeted him. The 2 sides shook hands, and Lu Feng said, hello, I'm the chairman of GFN Electronics. Lu Feng, you are the manager in charge of overseas assets of Roma Group, right? Karai raised her head to look at Lu Feng, and said to Lu Feng with a smile. Welcome to Mr. Lu. I didn't expect you to be so young and handsome. I originally thought that I would ask you to have an interview with the boss of the headquarters. Unfortunately, the specific person in charge is on a business trip, so I will personally receive you, the translator said. You're welcome. To me, you are more important than the boss of your group, Lu Feng said with a smile. The 2 were polite for a while, and then walked into the office building. There were 6 or 7 people standing beside them clapping their hands. They looked a little stiff. From the moment Lu Feng got off the plane, he felt that everyone here was very enthusiastic, with expressions on their faces. Smile. But I always felt that these people were too fake. Everything they showed was extremely lacking in sincerity. They went upstairs politely all the way. There are 6 or 7 departments in this building, all of which are related to overseas assets. After sitting down in the living room and introducing each other, Karai started talking about Ruxin Lab. This laboratory company was jointly established by the world's top semiconductor companies at the time. It invested a lot of effort in that year. It has only been more than 10 years now. If you are really sincere, I think the price aspect should not be. Let's talk about it again. She was dressed in business attire, sat on the opposite side without a smile, and said seriously, also, even if I submit this price, it will not be approved. As far as I know, this laboratory has been closed for several years now. The patents under the laboratory are all old technology patents 7 or 8 years ago. There are no land assets and no R/U0026D personnel. To put it bluntly, they can be sold. It's just some outdated technology patents, Lu Feng said to her. We are very sincere. Karai frowned slightly. The 2 chatted for almost an hour. The other party also knew that this laboratory was just an empty shell, but he was unwilling to let go. To put it bluntly, they manage these overseas assets, and they have to travel overseas every year to inspect the project. As long as the laboratory is kept, she can go to Sweden for half a month every year. And there are some considerations of the department. It's just noon, let's have a meal together. Lu Feng didn't expect to get things done in just one conversation. If that's the case, he wouldn't use it. Let's have a working lunch, you follow me to the restaurant. Kurai stood up and said politely. No, I'm treating a guest. I've already booked a restaurant. Damn, it's so cheesy. Treat me to a work meal. Since you have sincerely invited me, I will disturb you. I will change my clothes. Kurai bowed slightly, sorry for causing you trouble. It's okay, Lu Feng said politely. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 716. Everyone was sitting in the living room, and Lu Cheng whispered, they are too polite. It can be seen that they still pay more attention to us, and they kept apologizing just now. They are very etiquette, and the whole society is a kind of atmosphere that is unwilling to cause trouble, the translator said aside. Knowing small gifts without great righteousness, Lu Feng added aside. Obviously they don't mean to cooperate. We are a group of people waiting here, and then we have a meal, but nothing will change. Jin Tingting sighed and said, it can't be like in China, blocking the door and waiting. Just now, it's all about the scene, and now it's the main event. Lu Feng said to her, she is holding this laboratory just to consider her own interests. Some things are not very convenient to say here. 10 minutes later, when everyone came downstairs, Kurai was already waiting. Her upper body was a thick knit sweater, her lower body was a linen-colored winter skirt, and her legs were covered with flesh-colored tube socks that reached her knees. Older people still look a little girly. I'm really sorry, you guys have waited so long. Kurai bowed his head slightly and apologized. It doesn't matter, it's just as a friend, let's have a meal together, let's go, the restaurant has been set, Lu Feng said to her. Are you entertaining? How embarrassing, Kurai was a little surprised. It's okay, we also want to experience the local customs here. Besides, Mr. Lu, as the richest man in the mainland, an outstanding young entrepreneur, and the #1 person in the domestic electronics industry, is of course his guest. Lu Cheng was not blushing. He jumped up and said, Mr. Lu also has a nickname, Huaxia Bill Gates, but I think Gates is a little unattractive in front of him. I said so much, but you are the translator. Oh, the translator reacted and said hurriedly. After hearing this, Kurai was greatly shocked, looked at Lu Feng and said, Yo 11, Sao Disney, you will die. You're dead milk too, it's all small money, let's go, Lu Feng said and made a gesture of invitation, and walked towards the car. Jin Tingting was stunned when she saw these people, especially Lu Cheng. In her eyes, Lu Cheng was an honest and loyal person. He was almost 40 years old, and he always appeared in a stable image. But when I said those things just now, it was called a shun. If Jin Tingting didn't know what happened to Lu Feng in China, he would have believed his evil. The former Lu Cheng was indeed honest, but under the influence of Lu Feng's ears and eyes, that was already a thing of the past. Due to the sluggish economy, the employment opportunities at the bottom have been reduced, the housing price bubble has been burst, a large number of ordinary people are burdened with huge mortgage loans, and the value of the house itself has been cut in half, prompting all kinds of escort economy to begin to strengthen. Today's pubs, it's a custom shop. This restaurant is called Roppongi. It is the largest special restaurant in Kyoto. It covers an area of nearly 300 acres. The overall building is mainly based on local ancient buildings. Welcome. Ordinary people passing by here will think that this is an ancient building protection area, but it is actually a reservation-type tavern. The car stopped at the door, a few men came over, opened the door, and several girls in kimonos who were in charge of reception at the door stepped forward, bowed 90 degrees, and said welcome. After getting out of the car, Lu Feng took a look at the environment here. It was really good. Yui Karai got out of the car, and he didn't expect Lu Feng to bring her here, so he was a little stunned. Please, I'm also here to meet the world, Lu Feng said politely. Lu Feng-jun, it's very expensive here, and it's not suitable for me. Karai Yui waved his hands awkwardly. You're welcome, I'll treat you, don't worry, it doesn't matter whether the acquisition can be negotiated, the important thing is to know a female friend like you. Lu Feng looked at her and smiled. I am a woman friend, but very enthusiastic, like a hero in history. Do you know Cao Cao? Cao Cao sang. Karai Yui's eyes lit up and he nodded frequently. I know Lu Feng that the Three Kingdoms is very popular here, and many people have a certain basic understanding of the romance of the Three Kingdoms. After being polite to each other for a long time, Karai Yui said with a wide-eyed smile, then I will thank Lu Feng-jun for your hospitality, but I still want to say that none of this has anything to do with the acquisition. No, don't worry, I just met you right away, especially your name reminded me of two people, I was quite emotional. Let's go first, Lu Feng said politely. I have to say that the service here is really good. From the moment you enter the gate, someone will lead the way. All the waiters here are bowed and bowed. There were two girls kneeling at the door, with clogs in their hands, and they changed your shoes for you. Lu Feng could only sigh in his heart that they were very good at domesticating and oppressing the people at the bottom. How much is this thing? Lu Feng asked Lu Cheng in a low voice. I don't know, I just arranged it and said to find a high-end one, Lu Cheng muttered. Damn, I don't think it's cheap. Jin Tingting wanted to laugh as she listened to it. Just now, she had paid a lot of money. Bill Gates, the richest man in the mainland, was not enough to watch, but now she felt distressed about the money. Inside is a separate private room, with a tatami mat and a table on it. Everyone was very polite, and a few kimono girls came in and handed over 2 recipes. Lu Feng handed one of them to Yui Karai, and held the other one himself. After opening it, he was stunned for a moment. There were no vegetables on it, but several pictures, both male and female. This is the singer and the escort, the translator explained in a low voice. Don't they all stand in a row to pick? Lu Feng was a little puzzled, handed the menu to Karai Yui, and said, You're welcome. Karai Yui waved his hands embarrassedly and said, Let's just eat. What she means is that she is a married woman, a woman from a good family, which is not suitable, the translator said aside. Lu Feng insisted on persuading, thinking to himself, from your name, you are not a serious person, what are you pretending to be? In the end, he ordered 2 singers and 3 escorts. He originally wanted to order one for Jin Tingting, but seeing her murderous look, Lu Feng was not so courageous. As the food was ready, a handsome guy about 1.8 meters walked in, bowed slightly to Karai Yui, and sat beside her. Lu Feng and Lu Cheng sat next to a girl. This kind of thing, right, where can I talk about it? The degree of sake is not high, and the taste is a bit weird, but if you drink too much, it is still on the top. I have to say that the young man who escorts is still very skillful. Point. Yeah. Yabi butterfly. Karai Yui wanted to refuse, but she refused. Why is Lu Feng so familiar with this scene? The atmosphere at the scene had already begun to get a little out of tune. Lu Feng glanced at Jin Tingting beside her, her face was frosty, and she seemed to despise these smog. Is this the young woman from a good family you said? Lu Feng felt that they couldn't keep playing, so he went down to record it with a camera, and it was recorded on a CD that could be sold in China. He coughed, thinking it was time to talk about it. Miss Kang Jing, I'll give you a toast. Lu Feng picked up the glass. After the translation, Karai Yui cleared his mind, looked at Lu Feng with a wine glass in his hand, and said, I'm really happy today, Mr. Mitsui is really an interesting person, thank you for your hospitality, and I hope you have a good time. The two touched the cups, and Lu Feng said calmly, I think life should be like this, find someone who suits you, and you should spend your life in happiness, rather than wasting your life on meaningless things. What do you think? Of course, she glanced at the escort beside her, and knew in her heart that his appearance fee was expensive. With her salary, she was afraid that it would be difficult to see him again in the future. She sighed and said, everyone wants to be chic, but they don't have the money. Ah, if you don't want Lu Fengjun, you can sing every night. No, 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 Lu Feng looked at her and said, you can also be someone like me. In fact, you know better than me the value of that laboratory. It's not worth more than $100 million. You are just worried about it? After some assets are sold, you are no longer valuable to the company. The reason why I came to you first, I actually have an idea in my heart. What do you think? Kurayui asked curiously. If your offer for this laboratory can be lower, I can transfer some money to your account. For the Roma Group, $10 million is just a drop in the bucket, but it falls into your pocket. You can come here every day. Lu Feng looked at the man next to her and asked, if this lady has $10 million, would you be her boyfriend? Even if she has a husband. The man next to him nodded like pounding garlic, joking, 10 million is still US dollars, let alone nodding like pounding garlic, that head can pound garlic. Kurayui hesitated, her professional ethics made it impossible for her to do such a thing, and if she was found, she would be imprisoned. You just make an offer, and it's up to us whether you can negotiate it or not. Now that you put up a sky-high price, we really can't talk to the people at the headquarters. The Ruxin laboratory is really an empty shell. In the Roma Group, it was just put in the patent storage room to eat ashes, but in our hands, maybe it will be able to show a second spring, Lu Feng told her bitterly. Jin Tingting and Lu Cheng both stared at each other nervously. If they didn't agree, they would have no choice. All progress would be stuck in the hands of such a second-level department head. If you can't win these technologies in the short term, it's meaningless to negotiate with high-level executives and pull back and forth for half a year and a year. Kurayui thought about it, shook his head, and refused. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 717. Kurayui may also feel that her rejection was too straightforward. After all, Lu Feng invited himself to dinner, with a slightly drunk smile on his face. We are friends, since we are friends, I can help with the price. Please apply again, I want to know what is the price in Lu Fengjun's heart. Lu Feng stretched out 4 fingers and said, 40 million, US dollars. After hearing this offer, Kurayui looked embarrassed, thought for a while and said, this price is a bit outrageous, I don't think I would agree to it even if I make an offer. If Lu Fengjun sincerely wants to buy it, I think it will be open. A price of $80 million should be able to be sold. No, no, I don't think the 40 million US dollars is high. We have evaluated the relevant patented technologies. This is the person in charge of our R/U0026D company. Lu Feng introduced Liukin and said, these technologies are some outdated technology patents. Lu Cheng said something related to technology patents for a few minutes, but Kurayui didn't understand either. The two singers played Japanese minor tunes, and the atmosphere at the scene had an illusion of traveling through time and space. Of course, you can also quote the price of 30 million US dollars, and I can transfer the remaining 10 million to your personal account. You can just quote, and leave the rest to us. If it is unsuccessful, we will also. There is a thank you fee. Lu Feng stared at her and said, I believe you know that life after being rich is very different from now. Kurayui hesitated for a while, but finally sighed and looked at Lu Feng without speaking. The meal was almost 2 hours old, and the other party still didn't let go. Although she liked the handsome guy beside her, she had her own integrity and bottom line. Whether the negotiation is successful or not, the main thing is to make friends. Lu Feng glanced at the time, it was past 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and whispered towards the translator, "Is there a bar or nightclub open at this point?" "Yes, there are some izakayas that are expanding their business, and they are basically open now. Places like izakaya are not high-end, and the people are more chaotic," the translator reminded. "It's alright, go ahead and drink some wine." Lu Feng looked at Kurayui and said, "Let's go to the bar next, it's already 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we'll be having fun until the evening. This handsome guy, you can bring it with you." Kurayui originally wanted to refuse, but as soon as she heard that she could bring her escort, she glanced around and nodded in agreement. A group of people went out, got in the car and went straight to the izakaya. Inside the car, Lu Cheng sighed and said, "What should I do now? She doesn't seem to eat this." "Then change it, I think. As a middle-aged woman, she seems to be very interested in handsome guys." Jin Tingting looked at Lu Feng and teased, "Mr. Lu is very good, very handsome." At this time, can you say something? Lu Feng looked at her seriously. You can seriously talk to someone's senior management. You can talk to them about what price she will report. Now, let's go to contact one of their second-level department heads first. Jin Tingting sighed, there is no other way. Going to the bar for a while is probably useless. In Jin Tingting's eyes, this is already a dead end. As for the kind of contact, she said, starting from a high-level person, after a process, it can't be solved within a year. In the other car, there were only Yui Karai and the handsome guy who accompanied her in the back row. The two were close to each other. Taking advantage of the fact that there was no one else, she felt a little uneasy. There are many married people in this world who advertise that they will never cheat. Rather than saying that, it is better to say that these people will never have the chance to cheat in this life. When the car arrived in front of the izakaya, there was already a clear spring in Yui Karai's big eyes. Izakayas are generally taverns. With the booming economy of Fuzhang in the 1980s, many izakayas were unwilling to be a tavern and began to expand into nightclubs. Even during the day, the door will open, but there are not many people. A group of people entered, and a waiter greeted them. There are not many people now. They looked like 20 or 30 people. Lu Feng and his party sat in the best booth, and then ordered a lot of foreign wine. It was rather dark inside, accompanied by dull music. The handsome guy who accompanied him obviously had a good grasp of the atmosphere of this occasion. He picked up the glass and drank for a while, and then began to drink with Kurayui. More than an hour later, Kurayui began to stand up and twist up. There were more people at the scene. Lu Feng didn't mention the merger and acquisition during the whole process. Lu Cheng was not quite used to this kind of environment. Sitting there, shaking his shoulders slowly, Kurayui had already danced with the maid, and it was inseparable. Lu Feng looked at Jin Tingting, who was beside him, and said, "Don't be stunned, twist up." As he spoke, Lu Feng stood up and twisted his waist, his hands clenched into fists on his chest, with an intoxicated expression on his face, his whole body twisted and twisted. Jin Tingting saw that his dance was so irritating, she couldn't bear to look directly, she stood up and sat to the side. Lu Cheng had grown thick-skinned by following him for several years, but the small expression on Mr. Lu's face was too arrogant. Unable to carry it at all, he scratched his head, moved to the side, and drank with his head down. There are not many people in the venue, and the people who drink here are all people from the lower level, either the little gangster or the little sister, or the middle-aged man who has no money, who comes here to get drunk. And the handsome guy who escorts him is well dressed. In this kind of occasion, he is definitely the most eye-catching one among men. Not far away, a woman in her 30s with pigtails looks here, her eyes have been on the handsome guy who escorts him. Looking at his body, he smashed his mouth and said, "Yo 11. A few women on the opposite side looked here and whistled. The girl with pigtails stood up, walked to Yui Karai and glanced at her. What about your boyfriend? Who are you? Karai Yui was a little unhappy with the wine, and said, please don't disturb us. Don't disturb? Hey, have a drink with me. The braided woman raised her eyebrows at the escort, put her hand on his chest, and said, it's pretty strong, let's go, I met him in the past, my name is Kiko. Are you sick? This is my male companion, Kurayui yelled. Your male companion? You said it was yours, but is it yours? Kiko stared at Kurayui with wide eyes and shouted, Baga. After cursing, he raised his hand and slapped it on the face. Snapped. The slap in the face made Kurayui staggered, half sobered up, and she was instantly annoyed. Anyway, she was also a middle and high-level executive of a large company, and was beaten by a little sister? Do you dare to hit me? Believe it or not, I'll call the police. Kurayui found that he had no other means other than calling the police, and if this matter was reported back to the company, others would know, so he found a male partner to come to the izakaya drinking. Not only will you be laughed at, but also how your husband sees himself. Nanny? Report it to the police. I was just released from the police station yesterday. The other party was not afraid at all, lit a lady's cigarette, and threatened, I'm afraid of you. You call, I'll wait for you, tell you, if I come out of the police station, you will feel better. Kurayui is really out of options. A woman like her is a scoundrel. She spends her days in a bar and has a family and a company. She can't afford to spend money with such a person. Lu Feng stopped dancing not far away, and the translator helped translate what they said. Jin Tingting said from the side, it seems that a fight is about to start, let's not care. The opportunity is here, Lu Feng said solemnly. Chance? A hero saves beauty? Don't tease eldest brother, you want to win her by this trick? I think you should have a chance to exchange souls with that handsome guy, Jin Tingting teased. No, I want her to know the power of money. Lu Feng asked Lu Cheng, do you have cash on you? Bring it, almost 10 million yen, Lu Cheng thought for a while and said. Okay, give me the money. Lu Cheng took out a bundle of 10,000 yen in denominations from his bag, which was exactly 10 million. Lu Feng took it in his hand and walked over. After all, his money has been settled, and at most he will give him some bonus money later, and he can also see that Lu Feng is the one who mainly pays the money. This cooperation has not been negotiated, and they will not pay, so he might as well go with this woman. After playing for a while, I took the opportunity to get off work. Wait, Lu Feng stepped forward and spoke English, stood in front of Kiko, looked at her and said, you are dressed up quite enchantingly, but you can see that you are no longer a little girl. Why are you still doing this? What about robbing men at the izakaya? Noriko was stunned for a moment. First of all, the other party spoke English and looked like a foreigner. She didn't dare to act rashly. The sisters who were sitting not far away to watch the fun also walked towards the side. There were quite a few. Seems like they are going to attack in groups. Seeing Lu Feng in his early days, Kang Jingyue was afraid that something might happen to him. As a foreigner, it would be more troublesome if something happened here, so he hurriedly said, Lord Lu Feng, forget it. Don't understand. Lu Feng glanced at the translation girl, how could she not wink, and waved at her. Before and after the translation, Lu Feng said, translate to her, she has provoked someone she shouldn't have provoked, so get out now, or I'll be welcome. After the translation, Kiko was instantly angry and shouted to Lu Feng, Baga. Before he could speak, Lu Feng waved his arms and slapped him with a big slap in the face. Ba Nima, Ba, I've cleaned up a lot of stuff like you in the bar. Lu Feng stared at her and shouted. Kang Jingyue didn't expect that Lu Feng would dare to do it directly in a foreign country. The whole person was frightened on the spot, covered his mouth with his hand, and was extremely frightened. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 718. Several of Kiko's friends had already come over, and a dispute was about to take place. Lu Feng took out the money in his hand and said solemnly, "I'll give you two options now. First, take this one. Be sure to get away from me, and second, I don't mind taking 100 million to play with you." If ordinary people said these words, they would really admit it, but with the money in his hand, Lu Feng's arrogant expression on his face, as if the 10 million yuan was given to them. Kiko and the others didn't expect that Lu Feng would be so generous, and he would be 10 million, and if someone who could give 10 million was really angry, they would not have a problem with them playing with 100 million. In their eyes, these rich people's money is like a piece of paper, and it is best to take it now as soon as possible. Kiko took the money, the expression on her face was much gentler, she bowed slightly to Lu Feng, and said, "I'm sorry to bother you." After Kiko and the group left in despair, Lu Feng looked at the escort and asked in a deep voice, "I remember you took all your money, did you just want to leave?" He seemed a little flustered and explained, "No, I just now." "What are you, don't you know?" Lu Feng shouted, glaring at him, raised his hand and slapped him in the face. He was tall, his slapped head turned to the side, covered his face with his hands, and hurriedly bowed, "I'm really sorry, it's my fault." Karyui took all this into consideration. If she encountered these troubles alone today, it would definitely not be the result, and Lu Feng was just a foreigner here. Just because he has money. Karyui understands that people at the bottom will hide when they see money. No one knows the intricate relationships behind these rich people, and they don't know what consequences they will bear. They are all stepping on the same land, with the same sky above their heads, but the world they see is completely different. When you are rich, all you see are smiling faces, and there are greetings everywhere, but in front of the poor, these things are two-level reversal. As a poor man, Karyui feels this deeply. Lu Feng scolded the escort and asked him to stay by Karyui's side. He stood up straight and looked at Karyui with a smile on his face. "Let's continue, there's no need to spoil the mood for some unworthy people." Lu Feng sat down and said to himself, "I was poor a few years ago, when I was bullied at that time, most of them swallowed my anger, since I became rich. After that, I suddenly realized that the world will bow its head to you. It's so damn good to be rich. Even if you don't give those people a penny, these people will show humility towards you, which is really funny." Karyui didn't want to get bored with the handsome guy next to her, and she was almost sober up from alcohol. Sitting there was a little dazed, and suddenly felt that money really gave people a sense of security, not work. For a high-end banquet like today, the Shimizu department where she belongs may not have a chance every 3 or 5 years, but after she has money, she can live such a wonderful life every day. After returning home, if her husband dares to be rude to her, she also has absolute confidence to quarrel. Lu Feng quietly observed the expression on her face. She must be struggling in her heart now. The reason why many ordinary people live peacefully at the bottom all their lives and still feel happy and content with a meager salary is mainly because of the surrounding environment. People's lives are very different from their own. When I see the life of the rich, I naturally feel uncomfortable. This is a world that does not worry about the few but not the balance. Everyone is poor and stable. You are rich, right? Come here, toast. Lu Feng raised his wine glass and greeted everyone. He touched Lu Cheng first, and gave him a secret wink. Lu Cheng glanced at Lu Feng, reacted instantly, and said, "I toast Mr. Lu, it's really not easy for a person to meet a noble person in this lifetime. I was poor and begging a year ago, and I caught you. This opportunity, I am going out now, surrounded by people, whoever dares to betray me, I will kill him with money." One person has one's life. Seizing the opportunity can change the fate. Lu Feng glanced at the translation girl and touched the glass with Lu Cheng again. The music on the scene was a bit noisy, and the translation girl spoke loudly. He picked up the wine glass. Jin Tingting stood by and wondered why Lu Feng suddenly said this. She looked at Lu Cheng with suspicion. Isn't he from the R/U0026D company? Why did he become a poor jingle a year ago? Karyui was obviously absent-minded. After touching the glass, he took a sip, and the atmosphere behind it seemed a bit cold. At 7 o'clock in the evening, everyone left the izakaya, got in the car and sent Karyui back. In the back seat, Lu Feng sat next to her, the translator sat in front, and Lu Feng said, "Have you had a good time?" "Thank you very much Lu Feng Jun for your hospitality." Karyui bowed her head slightly. "You're welcome. For people like us, this is all daily consumption. In fact, money is easy to earn. Seizing the opportunity is to fly into the sky. I'm telling you my heart, and I came to you just to be faster. Going directly to the headquarters to talk, the result is the same, just pulling back and forth, which is time-consuming." Lu Feng lit a cigarette, lowered the car window, and the cool breeze was blowing in his face. "You are just dead brains. I know you are thinking about the company, but who cares about you? You love the company, and the company loves you." Karyui fell silent. She was very happy today, but the reality gave her a slap in the face. Until now, she still thought in her mind that if Lu Feng, the rich man, was not around, she would face Kiko. "Can you help people keep the handsome guy around you? Actually, I also think those assets don't seem to be worth that much." Karyui spoke up. "It's not that you think, we have done an evaluation. I can understand you. If it doesn't work, I will go to your headquarters to talk. At most, it will take some time." Lu Feng looked as if he was not ready to make up his mind about her. The car stopped under a building. Kang Jingyi thanked Lu Feng, and after getting out of the car, he suddenly said, "Lu Feng Jun, how can I contact you?" "This is the hotel's phone number, just transfer to my room." Lu Feng took out a hotel business card and handed it to her. "Okay, rest early, I'm really disturbing today." Karyui bowed slightly and politely. Watching Lu Feng's car go away, Karyui stood on the side of the road with a sigh of relief, carrying his bag and walking home. The impact of Fuzhang's housing price bubble is not too big on her. Her house is not large, 70 to 80 square meters, and she has no loans. Her husband is a local novelist who is not in the mainstream. As soon as Karyui entered the house, a man with messy hair and slippers came out of the bedroom. His eyes were full of exhaustion from staying up late, and the expression on his face was extremely gloomy. "What are you doing?" "Ah. What time is it?" "No cooking." He looked agitated, and stood at the door of the bedroom and yelled, "Drinking. You idiot, who have you been drinking with? Is that right? Your boss?" Karyui looked a little frustrated, raised her head and said, "I'm with a client today." "Oh, let you accompany the customer? Does your department need to accompany the customer? Is it possible to give you a salary increase?" "Ah," he abused like a wild beast, shouting, "Don't think I've never worked, so I don't know what to do with clients now." Karyui couldn't bear it anymore, and said solemnly, "You can't stay in the house every day and rely on your imagination. The dirty plots you wrote in your book must happen to me. Porfishu. Baga." Karyui didn't want to quarrel anymore. She knew that she needed to be patient. This country is not tolerant of women, especially women who are married and still working. Serving their men seems to be their only mission, staying at home with a good, docile, always smiling face. Under such repression, their derailment rate is terrifyingly high around the world. Karyui didn't scold back, just went to the kitchen to cook silently. No matter what country or customs, the only constant is that men and women, as long as they have money, can dominate the family. Karyui is cooking. For this job, she has not given birth until now. She has raised this family, but she is treated like this every day when she comes back. Her current salary will not change much after the divorce, but she will suffer from some strange eyes from society, but if she is rich, it will be completely different. At the entrance of the hotel, Lu Feng got out of the car and walked silently towards the lobby. Jin Tingting stepped forward and said, "It seems that it is not possible. I spent some money in vain. Let's contact their headquarters." "It's too early to say failure, wait a moment, this woman has greed." Lu Feng walked into the door, several managers in the lobby bowed one after another. Lu Feng said without even looking at it, "If there is greed, it's easy to handle." A manager walked over with a smile on his face and chatted a lot. Lu Feng looked at the translation girl, who was embarrassed and didn't seem to know what to say. "What's wrong?" Lu Feng wondered. She asked if you need services. "There are all kinds of people from childhood to adulthood. Some of them are part-timers," the translator said a little embarrassedly. "They are all open-minded part-timers here. Those in China are fake part-time jobs, not professional at all." Lu Feng muttered, "Forget it, no need." "What part-time job?" Jin Tingting wondered. "The part-time job helps men lie blood. We just came here today, so we've been busy with so much work. Let's go back to rest early." "I won't have dinner," Lu Feng said and got into the elevator. Promoting blood, Jin Tingting muttered to herself. She was really tired. She flew for 3 hours in the morning, and sat on the tatami for more than 3 hours at noon. "Say it, I need it." "What?" Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 719. The translation girl looked embarrassed. The elevator door opened, and Lu Feng walked out with a smile. "I don't need him to pay, I'll pay myself." Jin Tingting thought it was a matter of money. "No," the translator whispered a few words in her ear. "Okay, I see it, this is not a serious place." Jin Tingting sighed and went back to the house on her own. In China, the TV market has become hot again. For a while, the tit-for-tat is full of fire. The annual electronics conference is held again, but this time it is Zulidong. Viputa TV broke through 10,000 in a single day, and the sales fell to 7,000 the next day. With the promotion of the activities of Friends and Businessmen, Zulidong expects that the final single-day sales will be stable at around 5,000. This time, Lu Feng didn't show up at the electronics conference. It was really a blessing for the CEOs of many TV manufacturers. Although Zulidong had the smell of Lu Feng, how could he stink? Moreover, there are many newcomers at this electronic conference, such as Bird. A large number of newcomers appear, and a large number of old people leave at the same time. At the conference, Zulidong had a friendly interaction with Friends and Businessmen, and also revealed the next step of GFN Electronics after the groupization. The acquisition of foreign R/U0026D companies is unimaginable for the current domestic enterprises. When the news came out, the audience was in an uproar, and GFN Electronics took the step as if it were a plot of snake swallowing an elephant. But then again, what can't a lunatic like Lu Feng do? In the evening, in the hotel, the four founders of Bird gathered in one room. The atmosphere was quite dignified. They said before that they didn't care about GFN Electronics making a pager because they knew that Lu Feng had no technology in his hands. The dishes are cold. Now, the wolf is really coming. Pug leaned against the corner of the table, smoking a cigarette, and said, "For foreign R/U0026D companies, those are sky-high prices. Where did he get the money?" "Let me inquire." Zulidong's secretary said that Lu Feng went to Fuzhang. Sui Lang sighed, a little confused. "How much money does he have?" "Last year, Wipada TV has been losing money, and the small household appliance industry has been all the way. Being beaten is all supported by a golden leopard VCD. Does Lu Feng have a cornucopia at home? Didn't you compliment him some time ago? This person has a hand in making money, so I'll show you a hand. Don't talk about them. The outside world has always been curious about GFN Electronics funds. This company seems to be short of money all the time, but it has made a lot of money at a critical time of development. Lu Feng cried all over the place. He participated in some conferences or forums in the past 2 years, and he was full of bitterness while standing on the stage. He was like a person who turned out both of his pockets and told everyone that he was going to die of poverty. But the next second, he took out a stack of banknotes and hit you. The outside world speculates that GFN Electronics equity has long been diluted by 7788, and Lu Feng also does not hold much shares. No one knows the specific situation. Now it's not about where his money comes from, but when will GFN's pager come out? Su Liwa said with a serious look. Product line, sales channels, brand appeal, he is much stronger than us in these 3 points. As long as they free up a production line, when they hit Motorola, they clean up us. When everyone present heard this, the expressions on their faces became gloomy. GFN Electronics is now a big factory. The 2 factories are fully producing, which can satisfy a series of products such as TVs, VCDs, air conditioners, and radios, and there are many sales channels. Compared with it, the waveguide is a little sparrow. It is a lie to say that such a company is not afraid. Hurry up, increase production capacity as soon as possible, and lay out sales channels. Su Liwa gave the answer. Lu Feng was half paralyzed in the room. The lights were already on the outside. He sighed. Although the economy here has collapsed, the infrastructure is still there. The whole city is prosperous. People are brightly dressed, with mobile phones in their hands, people in business districts in suits and leather shoes, laptops in their hands, and a cup of coffee. When those people in China came out and saw such a world, how could they not be confused? In his last life, Lu Feng had seen a comparison chart, which showed the power generation of various countries in the 1990s, as well as a photo taken overlooking the Earth at night. Developed countries are bright as day, while in China, except for a few areas, it is dark. In 1994, I don't know how many children are still doing their homework beside the candles. After more than 20 years, these children have grown up, but they have long forgotten matches and candles. Lu Feng looked out with a sigh and said to himself, 20 years, dare to change the sun and the moon to a new sky. The phone in the room rang, and Lu Feng's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that there was no one else who called him except Karyui. Hello, Lu Feng answered the phone and asked. Lu Feng Jun. Lu Feng at the back couldn't understand it at all. I want a sack of beans. I want a sack of beans. Lu Feng hurriedly opened the door, knocked on the opposite door, and asked, is there an interpreter? The door opened, and the translation girl had already changed into her pajamas. Looking at Lu Feng, she wondered, Mr. Lu, what's the matter with you? I have a phone call, come here. Lu Feng turned around and walked to his room. The translation girl answered the phone and asked, hello, what's the matter? I want to ask, is it convenient for Lu Feng Jun to meet now? Asked Karyui. Lu Feng nodded and said, you can meet at any time. If she is inconvenient, you can send someone to pick her up. Okay, I'll drive over by myself. See you later. Call those people here. Lu Feng showed a look of joy on his face and said, this matter has a turning point. If it can be finalized tonight, it will be finalized tonight. A few minutes later, Jin Tingting walked in wearing slippers, and said with a bit of fatigue on her face, what's wrong? Is there any news? She called me just now, but she really couldn't take it anymore. Lu Feng sat on the sofa and said with a smile, I knew it. You know, Jin Tingting sat down and wondered, don't you just invite people to dinner and go to a bar, so you're sure they will agree to you? It has something to do with psychology. Why do you want him to eat so good, so high-end, so that she can feel the happiness of being rich? With her income, she can't get in touch with these things on weekdays. If you say how much money you give her, she is surrounded by people with the same income as her, and her life tends to be stable, and there is no excess consumption potential. So, to give her a consumption upgrade, after she has experienced it, and then look back at her own life, she must be dissatisfied no matter how she looks at it. This kind of psychology can be turned into a marketing method, such as 9UN9 experience, with low the cost makes the poor feel the quality of life of the rich, and of course, it can also become a light luxury or something. I originally wanted to drink some wine when I went to the bar, but I didn't expect that Noriko was looking for something to do. It didn't hit me, I just wanted to show her how arrogant the rich are and how cool it is to be rich. Lu Feng moved towards Jin Tingting, smiled and said, after seeing this, she will definitely not be able to sleep when she goes back at night. Jin Tingting was stunned, thinking about Lu Feng's words, she was shocked. She didn't expect that there were so many calculations in such a small matter. She looked at Lu Feng and asked, are you also calculating me? Ah, Lu Feng reacted and hurriedly said, no, we brother and sister said the word calculation. See the outside, who do you think of me? Lu Cheng is here? Sit down. Lu Feng greeted Lu Cheng and changed the subject. Get ready, the person will arrive soon, the contract will be prepared for me, no matter what problem she has, I will solve it for her tonight, and give her this reassurance pill, you know, Lu Feng said to the crowd. Everyone nodded. Lu Feng glanced at the time, changed his shoes and walked downstairs. Karyui drove her car here. After graduating from college, she joined the company. From an intern to a full-time worker, she has stepped into the position she is today in more than 10 years. It can be said that she is conscientious, but she really doesn't want to go on like this today. As long as she does this vote, she will be able to live unrestrainedly for the rest of her life, no longer need to look at anyone's face, her speed is not fast, and she is struggling deep inside. Karyui suddenly thought of what Lu Cheng said in the izakaya during the day. A year ago, he was nothing, and now he has reached the peak of his life. There are only a few opportunities in life, and if you miss it, it will be a lifetime. Drip. Drip. A harsh horn sounded outside the car, and a Lincoln SUV followed her from the side, lowered the window, and the owner scolded, can you drive? Be careful, Laozi kills you, how fast are you going? Slow like a snail. I'm sorry, Karyui apologized repeatedly. The car sped away, Karyui put away the smile on her face, looking a bit ruthless, holding the steering wheel with both hands. The car sped out with 1 foot of the accelerator, but unfortunately her Corolla displacement is too small and the speed is not fast. At that moment, she had already made up her mind. From now on, she will not allow others to yell at her. At the entrance of the hotel, as soon as Karyui entered the lobby, Lu Feng greeted him, shook hands with a smile and said, meet again, I think you will bring me good news this time, right? Let's find a place to talk, there are many people here, Karyui said cautiously. The two politely got on the elevator and went to a private parlor on the 20th floor. The waiter came in and poured coffee and brought some snacks. Karyui looked at Lu Feng, took a deep breath and said, I want to know, is $10 million enough for me to live the rest of my life in style?